Good morning and namaste, everybody. Is it clear? Are you able to hear me at the back also? It's very clear. All right, it's clear. We'll start this session. Good to go? Yes. Om asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness into light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. When we open our eyes and we see the world in front of us, just right now, and do it in the way we talked about yesterday, nose. When a child is asked what's a nose, the child doesn't say that it's the organ of respiration and olfactory sense organ. No. The child will say nose is this. So similarly, when we talk, whatever we say in Vedanta, you open your eyes and look at the world. Actually open your eyes and look at the world. Here it is. Just like the nose, here is the world. And then let us notice that whatever we see with the eyes is different, physically different, separate from the eyes. So here is the world, and the eyes are here. They are different, they're separate from the eyes. In fact, the only thing that the eyes cannot see among things which are seeable, the only thing that the eyes cannot see are the eyes themselves. The eyes themselves cannot see themselves directly, like the way they're directly seeing the world. Yeah, in a mirror, sure. In a selfie, sure. But directly you cannot see. So the seer and the seen, in a very naive way, when we begin, seer and the seen are distinct, we notice. And then let us bring our attention to the eyes. No longer attending, you're still seeing the world, but your attention is not on the world. Feel the eyes. Eyes are open, eyes are closed, eyes see well, eyes do not see well, whatever. We notice things about the eyes, our attention is on the eyes. What is knowing the eyes? It is the mind. It's the mind which is considering the eyes. Again, like the nose, catch hold of it. And that, all right, so there's the mind thinking about the eyes. And the mind is distinct from the eyes. So whatever the mind is, it's not this organ of vision, it's distinct. And the mind is distinct from the ears and the nose and all the sense organs and the physical body. It's right there, but it's distinct. And then let us bring our attention to the mind itself. It helps to close the eyes and notice thoughts, emotions, perceptions, memories, desires, impulses, the sense of ego, the intellect working to understand all of this. All of this is called the mind. This also, as clearly as nose, it's clear, this is the mind. And notice everything in the mind is experienced. Just as with eyes open we experience the world, with our mind we experience the eyes. As a fact, everything in the mind is also experienced. But if the contents of the mind are experienced, by what are they experienced? So again, not theoretically. Try to hold on to it or be as clear about it as nose. Yes, the mind is being experienced. But notice the peculiar thing about the experiencer of the mind. It is not an object. It is not something that we can catch hold of. The experiencer of the mind, the illuminator of the mind, the witness of the mind is there. And it is you. But it's not an object. It's not like the world. It's not like the eyes. It's not even like the mind. It is something which is, without being an object of knowledge, it knows everything. Without being an object of knowledge, it illumines everything. Light is a good example for it. It reveals itself. You feel that you exist, so it is revealing itself. The witness consciousness is revealing itself in the sense, one sense is our sense of existence, which the philosopher Descartes said is undeniable, that I do exist. In fact, it's the one undeniable thing in the world which is open to doubt. Everything in this world can be doubted, except your own existence. So this witness self. Notice also another interesting thing. The world that we see with the eyes can be doubted. Am I really seeing with the eyes, or am I dreaming? Or is this a virtual reality? Possible, theoretically at least. Even the eyes can be doubted. So how can it be doubted? I'm experiencing it. Could be a dream. Even the mind can be doubted in the sense that, is it there separately? Is it an entity? But it is appearing to me. It is being experienced by me. That cannot be doubted. The experiencer, the self which is the witness of the mind, cannot be doubted. Even to doubt it, you must exist as that. So that one, I am. Here is this subtle shift we must all do. Right now, our conception of ourselves, when I say I, we mean this bundle. We don't analyze it. We don't pay too much attention to it. We take it for granted. And what do we take for granted? I am this. Here. What is this? It is I. What am I? I am this. And this includes mind also. Thoughts, feelings. I am a person. What is a person? This being, embodied being, with thoughts, feelings, memories, desires. So I take it myself as a bundle. But now, after doing this analysis of seer and seen, we come to this remarkable result that this bundle, most of it is an object. Just as this is an object, this body is also an object. This breath is also an object. How do I define an object? Anything that you are aware of is an object. Whatever you are aware of, then you are the subject, and what you are aware of is the object. So the body is an object. The breath is an object. The thoughts and feelings and ideas in the mind are objects. It's a strange new way of looking at things, but very eminently logical. It's eminently logical, eminently psychological also. It stands to reason. Whatever appears to you is an object. As the philosopher Arindam Chakravarti said, how do you define an object? Anything that objects to my consciousness is an object. In what sense? In a very real sense. No, think of yourself as your awareness as a field. And it spreads out, and it runs up against color, shape, person, thought, feeling, emotion. These are all, you're running up against it. And you have knowledge, you have experience. So these are all objects, as if they're objecting, quote unquote, to your field of awareness. Now, I am, the new idea of myself is, I am this awareness. Yes, I am operating through the mind. Yes, I'm operating through the senses. Yes, I'm operating through the body. And I inhabit a world. But I am awareness. My fundamental nature is awareness. This shift from body-mind with awareness to awareness with body-mind, this must be accomplished first. This is something that we have already accomplished yesterday. But it's a new idea. It's a new feeling. So one must get used to it. After getting the hang of it, that I am this awareness, and remember, it's not something to be accomplished. It's already a done fact. Notice, it's already accomplished. It's always there. I don't have to develop this awareness. I don't have to refine this awareness. I don't have to attain this awareness. I just have to notice and change my understanding of what this awareness is. I have to notice that I am awareness. What else am I? Everything else I thought I was is an object to this awareness. So this awareness I am. Then what you do is notice the features of this awareness. When you look at the body, if I am the body, then I have some features. I am a man, and I have a brown skin, and I am maybe middle-aged or elderly. These are all features of the body. Maybe it is sick or healthy. Maybe it is stout or lean. These are all features of the body. I am happy or unhappy. I am learned or ignorant. These are all features of the mind, of the intellect. But if I am awareness, then what am I? What are my features? What are my features? What are your features if you are awareness? These are features of the body, features of the mind. But what are your features if you are awareness? One thing is sure, you exist. You exist as awareness. You shine. Shine in the sense you're aware. At least these two is very clear. It's difficult to discover the features of awareness because to discover the features of anything, you need to be aware of it. And so you need to be aware of, you can be aware of the body, you can be aware of the mind, but you cannot be, you cannot objectify awareness. You cannot make awareness an object of awareness. And yet awareness is not unknown. Swami Vivekananda says it's more than known. You must not go away with the idea that it is unknown. It is more than known. The awareness is the first one which shines, which reveals itself, and then only the world is revealed. The mind is revealed, the senses are revealed, the world is revealed. So awareness is known, but in a peculiar way, in a distinct, in a unique way, as a self-shining, as absolute certitude. All right, I'll share with you something very poignant. I was reading Descartes' first meditations, in translation, not the original French. And there, of course, the famous part is where he talks about cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. All that, that's the famous part of it. But he does a lot of analysis. He comes close to Vedanta. And he makes this very poignant statement, which I found unforgettable, writing nearly 400 years ago. I think, therefore I exist. So I exist. That's something that I'm completely sure about. And then he writes, it is passing strange that which I am utterly sure of, I know almost nothing about it. And what I know so much about, I can never be sure of. And that's still true today. What we know so much about, we can never be sure of. Could be wrong, could be a dream, could be an error. In science, somebody said, our most prestigious form of knowledge, certified form of knowledge is science. And yet every scientist knows whatever we know today is probably going to be outdated in 50 to 100 years, 200 years, most of it. Or at least it will be refined and updated. That is the nature of science. But that I am awareness, this is indubitable. It's for sure. There is no doubt about it. And yet we don't know anything about it. He says, and he stops there. But Vedanta says, we can know. We can know that we exist. We can know that we shine. And then notice this existence shining which reveals the world and this body-mind, it has no problems. Aging, disease, death, body problem, not awareness problem. You might ask this question, somebody asked, but at death, the awareness also will be gone. No, that's the thing. One day, and not to be morbid, one day we are all going to die. And guarantee you this, at that point, we'll think, hey, that guy in orange was right, I'm still around. That body is dead, but I'm still around. I means as awareness. There is evidence of near-death experiences. There is evidence of reincarnation. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence, empirical evidence which has been collected. Theoretically, mainstream science doesn't accept it, but still. Logically also, one point I'll make here, just about death and awareness. Logically, when I look at you, when you look at me, you are not only looking at this body, You feel you are interacting with a person. I feel I'm interacting with a person, with a being like me. Like I feel inside, I'm quite sure there is another being like that inside that body, in that body. And that's how we interact with everybody. We interact as if we are interacting with thinking, feeling persons, aware persons, conscious persons. That's what a person is. So we are interacting with awareness through that body. And that's what a person is. And notice the mistake, the sleight of hand, the error which we make when there is death. What is death? It's death of the body. Every doctor will tell you. Physical death, biological death, physiological death, death of the body. How do you know that the person is dead? How do you know that that awareness is dead? When we are interacting with a person, we don't think we are interacting only with flesh and blood. We think we are interacting with a mind, with a personality, with awareness. But when we see that the body is dead, we assume that that awareness which was there in that body, we assume it's dead. Why? Because, well, we say we can't interact. Obviously, you can't interact with it because the body is dead. How will that? It's like a door which has been shut. How will that awareness interact with you? That's why people are sometimes startled when they get, the reports of people who seem to be in deep coma were actually aware. When they come back, people get startled when doctors report quite horribly, not to scare you, that people under anesthesia were also aware and feeling the pain and can't say anything about it. It's just as if their physical part was paralyzed. That's all. Sometimes. So don't be afraid of going under anesthesia. I read a paper somewhere that certain anesthesiologists were refusing to take anesthesia. Why? When they needed it. Why? Because there's some concern that what anesthesia does, one type of anesthesia, does is not to prevent pain. You will be aware and you will be experiencing pain, but it efficiently removes all memory of that when you wake up. I don't know how true this is. The experts will know. But I read, that's a horrible thing. Anyway, so death is not the end of awareness. This is the big claim. Death will be the end of awareness if you can prove that the body, that the brain and nervous system produces awareness. And awareness is, as so far, not reducible to brain and nervous system. All right. Once you have noticed the nature of this awareness, that it cannot die, it does not age, it's not susceptible to disease, it's never depressed or unhappy, it's never sleepy or bored or excited or impulsive or guilty, whatever, all those are characteristics of body and mind. You as awareness are free of it. And then you can use this body and mind to navigate life. So this is where we are right now. This is what we have done. Great. And this is the major breakthrough. The rest of the text is built on this breakthrough. And we will keep coming back to it and solidifying it and stabilizing ourselves in it. Now a number of questions arise, which we will deal with in this session. Multiple questions. One is, all right, all this is fine, but I'd like to know certain other things. I am awareness. The body is an object. The mind is an object. Okay. Senses are an object. But we undeniably feel conscious. The body feels conscious. Notice, I feel I am there. I'm holding a book. I feel I am there up to this hand. I don't feel I am the book. My awareness, feeling of identity extends up to this body. Beyond this body, even when I'm holding the book, at my fingertips, my sense of identity stops. I am this. The book is not me. How is it that this body feels like the self? How is it that this body feels aware? How is it even more? The senses and the mind certainly feels aware to the extent that today when we talk about consciousness studies, the entire field of consciousness studies today, what do they study actually? They are not studying witness consciousness. They have no idea of it. They are studying mind. They're studying thinking and feeling and memory and perception, the sense of self. That's what they're studying. And Vedanta would say that what you're studying is an object, is the mind. It's not consciousness itself. But then the question arises, why does the mind feel so conscious? So this is question number one. If I am pure consciousness separate from body and mind, why does the body and mind feel conscious? Question one. Question two. What about waking, dreaming, sleeping? What are those? Because we often use the term states of consciousness. But you just said one and unchanging awareness, distinct from the mind, distinct from the body. Clearly it is the body and mind which sleep, which awaken. So how are they connected with consciousness? How is consciousness, what is the relationship of consciousness with waking, dreaming, sleeping? Second question. Third question, one of the big questions. This consciousness which you say I am, what is its relationship to death and existence after death? We talk about every Indian philosophy, every Indian system of thought. Vedanta, yoga, Buddhism, Jainism, all systems. They all have this common thread that they all talk about multiple lifetimes, many lifetimes. We have existed earlier, we will continue to exist afterwards. So what is the relationship of this consciousness, this witness consciousness, with life after death? How do we go from body to body? What happens after death? So third question, birth and death, the cycle of birth and death, its relationship to pure consciousness. First question, how is the body-mind conscious? Relationship of pure consciousness to body-mind consciousness. That's why we feel that we are the self. Second question, relationship of pure consciousness to waking, dreaming, sleeping. Third question, relationship of consciousness to life, life after death, rebirth, all of that. So let's see. Those answers are now given. Verse number 6. Chichaya veshato buddhau, chichaya veshato buddhau, bhanam dhistu dvidha sthita, bhanam dhistu dvidha sthita, ekaham kritiranya syad, ekaham kritiranya syad, antakarana rupini, antakarana rupini. So the buddhi appears to possess luminosity on account of the reflection of consciousness in it. Intelligence or buddhi is of two kinds. One is designated egoity, the other is other as mind. Okay. Now, a new concept is introduced. Reflection of consciousness, reflected consciousness. Here the term used is chit chaya, shadow of consciousness. Chit chaya. Chit means consciousness, and shadow, chaya means shadow. Shadow of consciousness or reflection of consciousness. The idea of reflected consciousness is introduced here. What happens is, just imagine a mirror. The mirror has a unique property. When you're looking at a wall, you're looking at the wall. But on the wall, if there's a mirror, then something interesting happens. You're not only looking at the mirror, you see your own face there. The mirror reflects. Mirror has this unique property of reflecting whatever is in front of it. So my face is there, and the mirror reflects this face. Now, this example is taken to explain how the mind and the body feels conscious. I am aware. I am consciousness. What am I conscious of? Of everything. But the first thing that I'm conscious of is the mind. Thoughts, emotions, feelings, ego. These arise in consciousness. And they have a unique property like a mirror. They, quote unquote, reflect consciousness. Why am I saying reflect? You can use the word reflection. You can use the word channelize. You can use the word utilize. They have the ability to take up, as it were, some of the properties of consciousness. They are lit up by consciousness. So the mind, which is very subtle, has the capacity of being so-called, so to say, lit up by consciousness. And this mind lit up by consciousness is what we now are experiencing as consciousness or awareness. Right now, we all feel aware. And when we talk about witness consciousness, awareness, people think, oh, so that's what you're talking about? No, 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 no. That's the reflected consciousness. That's the reflected awareness. Chit chaya, Or another word used in Sanskrit is chidabhasa, appearance of consciousness. Reflected consciousness, appearance of consciousness. It's very much like your face and the reflected face. Notice certain things about the face and the reflected face. One is, I can see the reflected face. I can't see my real face, my original face. Is that clear? I need a mirror or a camera or something, then I can see the picture of my face or a reflection of my face. But the real face, which is here, is not seen. It can never be an object of my eyes. Exactly like that, pure consciousness or witness consciousness is not an object. It is that which objectifies everything. But reflected consciousness has an objective property, as an objective aspect, because it's reflected in the mind. The mind is an object, just as the mirror is out there, and therefore when it reflects the face, the reflected face is also out there, in the mirror. In the mind, thoughts, feelings, they're all objects, but they also reflect consciousness, and therefore these thoughts and feelings feel conscious. They feel lit up by consciousness. Don't look so mystified. It's straightforward. Remember always, nose. Notice, thoughts, feelings, do they feel consciousness? Do they feel conscious? Do they feel aware? Are they lit up? Are they shining in awareness? Yes, they are. Notice. The only problem with that is, that's not the real awareness. Just as the only problem with the reflected face is, that's not the real face. Another aspect of the reflected face in the mirror is the reflected face and the mirror are indivisible. It is the mirror alone which has the property of reflecting your face. And then what happens to the mirror happens to the reflection. If the mirror gets dirty, the reflection is obscured. If the mirror is cracked, the reflection appears to be cracked. If the mirror is concave or convex, the reflection becomes twisted. Similarly, I, the awareness, who am completely distinct from the mind, appear to be completely mixed up with the mind. Whatever happens in the thoughts, anger, a flash of anger. What do I say? I do not say I am the luminosity illumining a flash of anger in the mind. No, I say I am mad at you. I am angry. I am angry. I don't say that. Just like, when we look at the face in the mirror and it's dirty, now because we know that's not my real face, I say this is my real face and the reflection appears dirty because the mirror is dirty. But we don't do that for the mind and pure consciousness. We are so mixed up with the mind. I am angry. I am bored. I am awake. I am dreaming. I am enjoying. I am sleeping. All mind, 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 mind. But it's all we take upon ourselves. Not being aware of this, as if we are not aware of our real face. And we look at the mirror and see the face, and somehow we think, I am that face. And then I say, oh, my face is dirty. Oh, my face is concave or convex or cracked or... nothing has happened to the face. It looks like that, and I've forgotten my real nature, and I look there, and I'm all mixed up in it. Just as an aside, you know what yoga, Patanjali yoga does? Why is this tremendous emphasis on meditation? Here's a good way of distinguishing the Vedantic approach from the yogic approach. Right here is what yoga says is this. Patanjali's genius was this, that if I am mixed up with the movements of the mind, whatever happens in the mind, I identify with it immediately. And I say, I am angry, I am greedy, I am unhappy, I am so depressed, I am so peaceful. Peaceful, be careful, mind. Now, Patanjali thought, suppose we stop the mind. Suppose we still the movements of the mind. Then the difference between me and the mind should become obvious. When the mind is in movement, I get attached to the movements of the mind. Anger, fear, desire. But suppose no anger, no fear, no desire, no restlessness, just calm. Then it should become clear that I am not in the mind. I am separate from the mind. So the core idea of yoga, Patanjali yoga, is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is cessation of the movements of the mind. Why? Why would you want to quieten the mind? The mind is meant for thinking. Why don't you let the mind do its thing? Why do you want it to stop thinking? For this reason. Because when you make the mind stop thinking, the next sutra says, Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. Then the witness consciousness, drashta, using the same word which is used here, seer. Then the seer, the witness consciousness, it remains in its real nature. It remains as it is. As what? As witness consciousness. Swami Vivekananda gives the example of a lake. When the water is clear and the water is still, then one can see through to the bottom of the lake. The clear water means mind is pure. Still water means, mind is pure means free of negativities. Anger, jealousy, grasping, free of negativities. Those are gone. And still means not breaking out into waves, not breaking out into thoughts and judgments and memory and ideas. No, stop. When the mind is still and clear, like the lake of the mind is still and clear, one can see through to the bottom, Vivekananda says. Patanjali says, the witness consciousness is then known or it is appreciated in its real nature, that it is just awareness, it's just light shining. Otherwise, what happens? The next sutra in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, vritti sarupyam itaratra. Otherwise, in other cases, whenever the mind is active, the consciousness is mixed up with the activities of the mind. Whatever happens, I identify with it and say, I am angry, I am peaceful, I am restless. No, it is the mind which is angry or peaceful or restless, or desiring, or waking, dreaming. All of those are mind. So this is the Patanjali Yoga way. But what are we doing here? We didn't say that, stop thinking. We said, use the thought itself to distinguish consciousness from the thought. Be aware of the mind which is looking out there into the world. The world is the seen. Eyes are the seer. Eyes are the seen. The mind is the seer. Mind is the seen. Witness consciousness is the seer. We are distinguishing it using the mind, not stopping the mind. This is called the unique way of vichara, investigation, inquiry. One way is to silence the mind and notice yourself as separate from the mind. Another way is to use the mind. Let the mind work. Let the mind work. Let the intellect work. Try to understand what's going on. Then you see the difference. It's another example I'll give you, distinguishing the yogic approach from the Vedantic approach. A movie. We are watching a movie. Now, a monk told us this story. He said, imagine there's a little boy in a village who has not seen a movie. No such boy exists anywhere in the world now. But anyway. And his father says, I'll take you to the city. Son, I'll show you what a cinema is, a film. A film is something, there's a screen, and on which pictures are projected, and it'll be sound. That's a film. And so they go to a movie theater, and they enter it. And this is the thing. The movie is on. It's already started. That's what happens to us. We get into life and it's already started. The world is there, mom and dad are there, everything is there. School is waiting for us. We don't get into life at the beginning of the universe. Then we would know what's going on here, but we don't. The movie has started. We are plunged into the middle of it. And the child gets enraptured by the movie, just as we do. We get into life, being babies and then being toddlers and being little children in school and college, and that we are in the movie. But after some time, because he's been told what a movie is, the child whispers to the father, Dad, Papa, where is the screen? You told me there are pictures. I can see the pictures, but where's the screen? And his dad says, right there. And I always imagine this as being a movie of the Mahabharata and Krishna teaching Arjuna the Gita. So when he says, right there, and the child says, oh, so the screen is Krishna. No. Behind him. Oh, Arjuna and the chariot. No. Behind them. Oh, the battlefield is the screen. No. You just remove that. Krishna, chariot, battlefield. And then he says, oh, that means the screen is nothing. Then the father says, no, it's all of them. It's all together. It's a screen. Oh, what you mean by the screen is Krishna and Arjuna and chariot and the soldiers and the elephants and the battlefield and the sky. That is the screen. No, no, no. How will the father point out the screen? Wherever you point out, wherever he points out, there is a picture. And the child takes the picture to be what is being pointed out. Suppose you say, no, just remove. Think about all the pictures gone. All the pictures gone, the only thing that the child knows is the pictures. And if you say all the pictures are gone, the child will think, nothing. Nihilism. Nothing is there. But if you say, look, what I mean is all of it is the screen, then the child will take the screen to be a collection of all the pictures. The screen itself, how will you point out? So there are these two ways. One is the way of yoga, other one is the way of Vedanta. One is the way of meditation, another one is the way of inquiry. What does the way of meditation do? It says, switch off the movie for heaven's sake. Let the child see the screen. By this time, everybody else around the child must have become annoyed. They must be shh going. I had this experience as a little kid, long, long ago. And my dad took me and my little brother to see a movie. And it was called Star Wars, when it was first released. George Lucas and everything. And I didn't know that the Star Wars had such a connection with Vedanta. Many people don't know. George Lucas was a friend of Joseph Campbell, who wrote about mythology. And Joseph Campbell was a disciple of Swami Nikhilananda in New York, in the Vedanta Society. And when George Lucas was looking for a plot for a new movie, Joseph Campbell told him about Vedanta, about Brahman, all-pervasive consciousness, which became the force in the Star Wars movies. Those who have seen the Star Wars movies. There's actually a whole course on Star Wars and Indian philosophy in one of the colleges in the United States. A professor, Professor Jeffrey Long, he came to give a talk in the Vedanta Society. The name of the talk was The Yoga of Yoda. Those who don't know Star Wars, Yoda is the spiritual master there. So the Yoga of Yoda. And when he came to the Vedanta Society, he said, when I talk about this to the students in the college, they all know Star Wars, but I have to explain what is Vedanta to them. And here in the Vedanta Society, they all know Vedanta, but I have to explain what is Star Wars to you. So my dad took me and my little brother and my mom to see this movie. And I was fascinated. Which little kid wouldn't be? Space battles and aliens and stuff like that. But I still remember when the Chewbacca was growling and all, the space battle was taking place. I was thrilled. But my little brother, who was still a baby, started crying. And everybody else around us shushed us, and finally we had to leave the hall, for which I had never forgiven him. So you stop the movie and you see the screen. That's one way of understanding the screen. Immediately the child realizes, oh, I see, this is the screen. But now notice what happens afterwards. When the movie starts again, the child has no doubt about what the screen is and what the movie is. As we do not also. When you watch a movie, you don't have to stop the movie once in a while to make sure the screen is there. You know what is the screen and you know what is the movie. It's absolutely clear to you even while watching the movie. What Vedanta tries to do is, while the movie is on, tries to distinguish the screen and the movie in our understanding. So we see, okay, this is the witness consciousness and these are objects. Remember, here the screen is not out there. Here the screen is you. You are the witness consciousness in which the movie of life appears. The movie of life has two parts, the mind and the physical world, body and the physical world. So it's inquiry and distinguishing by understanding and seeing, quote unquote, seeing through knowledge. The yogic method is stopping the movie. Sit still. Close the eyes, quiet environment, withdraw from the world outside, and then focus inside. Still the mind into one thought, maybe Om or something. Attain the sampragyata samadhi, and then go from there to asampragyata samadhi, where there is no movement of the mind at all, although you're awake, not sleeping. That's the yogic way. Stop the movie. The Vedantic way is let the movie go on, let life go on, and you see that you are witness consciousness. In fact, just as every picture in the movie, to the person who understands what the screen is, every picture in the movie also reveals the screen. You know it is the screen. When the picture appears, you know that is the screen. The screen has to be there. Otherwise, the picture won't be there. Similarly, to the enlightened one who understands what witness consciousness is, everything that that person sees, hears, smells, touches, thinks, remembers, enjoys, suffers, always is revealing or pointing to the witness consciousness. Just as with your eyes open, whatever you see, you say, what are you seeing? You are seeing the stage and the Swami and the tent and the world outside. You're seeing all of that. But all of that is telling you that your eyes are open and they're working. Anything that you see, let's put it this way. In the field of vision are all these things, except one thing. One thing is not there in your vision, your eyes. They are not objects which you are seeing. And something exists. There are flags out there. How do I know? Because I see it. There are people in here. How do I know? Because I see them. So something exists because I see them. Something does not exist. An elephant is not in this tent. Why? Because if it were, I would have seen it. But I don't see it. So the existence of something is proved by my seeing it. The non-existence of something is proved by my not seeing it. But notice, we do not see the eyes themselves. So how do I know that the eyes exist? Why do I not never ever doubt, do my eyes exist or not? Are they still there? You never doubt it. Because seeing anything is a proof of the existence of the eyes. Seeing the flags is a proof of the existence of the flags. Seeing the people is a proof of the existence of the people. But seeing anything, flags or people, is a proof that my eyes are there and they are seeing. Similarly, to the person who understands, who has realized it, any experience is a proof that you are limitless awareness. You are this witness consciousness. This witness consciousness being reflected in the mind is called the reflected consciousness. Now, next he's preparing the ground to answer our questions. Dዄstu dvidha sthitam. The mind itself, he says, divide it into two. Divide it into two. The sense of ego, I, and the rest of it. Memory, intellect, emotions, all of that, put it under, he calls antakarana rupini, inner instrument. And separate the ego from it. Both are mind. Ego is also mind. How do you know ego is mind? Ego, what is the ego after all? The sense of I, ego. When you say, I am sitting, I am listening to you, I am trying to understand what the ego is, that's the ego. Anything that says I is the ego. But that's also mind. It's a function of the mind. Notice when the mind stops in deep sleep, no ego. When you fall asleep completely, anesthesia, deep sleep, no ego. Because the mind is stopped there. So, divide the mind into two parts, ego and the rest of the mind. He says, eka ahankriti. One is ego, and the other one, anyasyad antakarana rupini, the inner instrument. By inner instrument, the author means everything else in the mind, memory, intellect, emotions, all of it. Put everything else under the umbrella of inner instrument. Now, those who have been studying Vedanta, little heads up for them. This is not the way we are used to analyzing the mind. In Vedanta, the mind is analyzed, the mind itself is called antakarana, inner instrument. It's a more precise term. Why inner instrument? We have some external instruments. What are those external instruments? Our sense organs which directly contact the external world. Eyes are contacting form, ears are contacting sound, nose is contacting smell, skin contacting the tactile sensation, the touch, pressure, warmth, heat, cold, all of that. Tongue is contacting whatever gives flavor. So these are called external instruments because they are in touch with the external world. But they get information and they dump it into the mind. So the mind is only in touch with those instruments. The mind is not directly in touch with form or color or sound. No, only through the sense organs. So the mind is called the inner instrument. It's an internal processing unit. It's an internal processing unit. Traditionally in Vedanta, we divide the mind into 4 parts. Here is done 2, but we traditionally divide it into 4 parts. Mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. Mind is the processing part of it, which is thinking, cogitating, trying to get it, understanding, feeling. And then there is the determinative faculty of the intellect. Nishchayatmika antakarana vritti buddhi. The determinative faculty of the mind is called intellect. When you say, I get it. For example, the difference between mind and intellect would be when you are, for example, remember as a kid working on a math problem. And you're trying to get it, you're trying to understand, working on it, processing it. The moment you get it, that aha moment, I understand it now, that flash of understanding, that part of it is called the intellect. The intellect is that which says, I know, I get it. It can change, but right now, this is my state of knowledge. So that is intellect, buddhi. And another part of the mind is memory, chitta. And another part of the mind is ego, I, the sense of ego. So the mind has been traditionally divided into 4 parts: ego, memory, intellect, and just the mind itself, the processing part of it. Here, what he does is, on purpose, we'll see why. He divides it into 2. One, the ego, he focuses in on the ego, and the rest of it. Just call it the rest of it, antakarana, inner instrument. All right, now what's he going to do? First, he's going to answer our first question. Why is it that the body and the senses and the mind feel conscious? They feel aware. Why is it that we identify ourselves? We think that I am this body-mind. Question here. 7. Chāyāhaṅkārayoraikyam Chāyāhaṅkārayoraikyam Taptāya pindavanmatam Taptāya pindavanmatam Tadahaṅkāratādatmyāt Tadahaṅkāratādatmyāt Dēhaścetanatāmagāt Dēhaścetanatāmagāt. In the opinion of the wise, the identity of the reflection of consciousness and of the ego is like the identity of fire and the heated iron ball. The body, having been identified with the ego, which has already identified itself with the reflection of consciousness, passes for a conscious entity. All right, sounds complicated, but it's not all that complicated. What it says here is, gives an example, a stock example in ancient Indian texts. The heated iron ball. So imagine a furnace in a factory. There's a ball of iron, like a bowling ball. So ball of iron, made of iron, heavy ball made of iron. And have you seen iron when it passes through a furnace? It glows red hot. It glows red hot. So the iron ball which has been heated up, it's now glowing red hot. So this red hot glowing iron ball is the example. Now what does he want to say here? Notice in that glowing red hot iron ball, 2 things are there. One is iron, which is the ball, and the other one is heat, fire, which has entered into it. Now, when you say the glowing red-hot iron ball is round, that roundness belongs to fire or to the ball? To the ball or to the fire? You don't sound very convinced. One should be very clear about the example before we try to understand what is being talked about. Example is pretty simple. A heavy iron ball, round, put into fire, into a furnace, is heated up, and it's glowing. When you see it glowing there in the furnace. Now, somebody says, it's round. That roundness comes from the fire or from the ball itself? The ball itself, yes, that's obvious. So the ball, the roundness of the glowing red-hot iron ball is from the ball. That's the ball's contribution. That it is glowing, that comes from the ball or from the fire? Fire. So it's glowing red hot. So that is coming from the fire. That it's very hot, that comes from the fire or from the ball? From the fire. Because the moment it cools down, the ball itself remains, but it's not hot. The heat has come from the fire. That it's heavy, that comes from the fire or from the iron ball? From the ball, yes. All right, good, we've got it. You're good Vedantists. Now that's the example. That's the example. What is he applying it to? He says he's applying it to the mind. More specifically, he isolated the ego. And that's good, because we all feel the ego, I. That ego, focus on the ego. Like how will you focus? Like this, nose, I, the sense of I. Notice one thing right now. The sense of I seems to be conscious, aware. I am, and I am aware. Who's that? The ego. Whenever the I is there, it's a conscious ego. It's an aware ego. Not that by conscious I don't mean self-conscious. Not that it is thinking of itself. But whenever it's there, it's shining with awareness. Now what he's saying is that I feeling, which I have right now, the ego, that's like the red-hot iron ball. That it is aware, it comes from the borrowed consciousness, the reflected consciousness. That it feels like I, that comes from the ego. The ego part of it is like the iron ball. The conscious part of it is like the fire, like the heat. Red-hot iron ball. That it is hot and shining, that comes from fire. It has borrowed fire, that iron ball. Similarly, the ego has borrowed consciousness, reflected consciousness. That's why it feels conscious. I am aware. And on the other hand, it feels like I, this person. That's the ego. That's like the iron, the other part of it. So the ego, shining in consciousness, aware, is like the red-hot iron ball. The red-hot iron ball has two parts in it, fire and the iron itself. Some of its properties belong to the ball, some of its properties belong to the fire. Similarly, the aware ego, which is there right now, every one of us, we have the aware ego. It has two parts. One is the ego, like the iron ball. The other one is the consciousness, like the fire. The consciousness is the borrowed consciousness. Like the fire in the iron ball is a borrowed heat. Think of it another way. Think of the ego as the mirror. And think of the consciousness in the ego as the reflected face in the mirror. First of all, think of the mirror. Here is the mirror. There is the face in the mirror. And here is my real face. Similarly, here is the ego. And there is consciousness in the ego. Here is the real consciousness. That movement you have to do. Going from the conscious ego and the consciousness in the ego, go from the ego to the awareness in the ego. And from the awareness in the ego, if we can, back to ourselves. If you can do that, it's done. But that's see how delicately he's positioning it. He's bringing us very close to understanding what the witness consciousness truly is. There's one little step which we have to take by ourselves. What's that step? It's the step which goes from the reflected face in the mirror to the real face. It's the step which goes from the awareness in the ego to me, the witness consciousness. That much. Up to ego and the aware ego. That much everyone can grasp, and we should grasp it. Knows. As clearly as that. Ego, I am aware, and I feel I, ego. From there. One also understands here why the whole method of Ramana Maharshi. Who am I? Who am I? The whole method of Ramana Maharshi. He pushes it back to the ego. He doesn't want an answer from you. Who am I? If you start saying, I am so and so, this is what I've done, these are my problems. No. Keep quiet. Anything that you say, these are my problems, that's why I have come to you, O sage of Arunachala. He would say, I am not interested in your problems. Who am I? Who is the one who owns those problems? Who is saying I here? Somebody asked him, Vedanta is so difficult. Am I qualified for Vedanta? And Ramana Maharshi said, did you say I? If you said I, you can ask, who am I? Who does not say I? We all say I. If you say I, you can ask, who am I? And that is the door to enlightenment. One monk put it so beautifully. Somebody asked him, am I qualified for Vedanta? It seems so difficult. And he said, look, When you go into a house and it says, trespassing prohibited, no entry without permission, then you don't go in there. You need permission. But if it's your own house, you don't bother about that sign, because that sign doesn't apply to you. No entry without permission does not apply to you. It's your own house. Similarly, when you are investigating yourself, who am I? You don't need permission. It is you yourself. If you have a right to anything in this universe, you have a right to yourself. And in yourself is the doorway to infinity, to the universe. Finding yourself, you find everything. Knowing yourself, you attain freedom from samsara, from all travail and trouble. How? How is knowing? So here this explains why Ramana Maharshi insisted on that. Finding the answer to who am I is not enlightenment, but that I is a doorway to the real nature of the self. How is it a doorway to the real nature of the self? That's what is precisely explained here, as far as can be pointed out. After which you have to take the leap. Take a look at the I. Actually take a look. And also notice that it is shining in consciousness. Now we are told that this shining I and an aware I, this awareness is not the original awareness. It is borrowed from me, the original awareness. Let's do another experiment. This is borrowed from Greg Good, who is a psychologist working in New York and uses a lot of Vedanta in his work. So what he does is, he says, let's find out the ego. Let's find out the ego. Find out means actually locate, like this. You see, hold on the nose, let's hold on to the ego. Let's find out, let's actually hold the ego like this, almost. So he says, notice the sense of I, and mentally draw a horizontal line through the waist, below the waist and above the waist. If you are forced, if you are asked, place the ego, where do you feel I? Do you feel it somewhere below or somewhere above the waist? And just about everybody would say above the waist. Where are you? Somewhere here. Where here? Above the waist. Unless you have knee pains and stuff, then you feel you are below the waist. You are somewhere there. Yeah. But generally we feel I am, if you force me to locate myself, I will locate myself above the waist. So, now above the waist where? Draw one more line horizontal through the chest, like this. Are you below or above? And most of us, do it yourself, actually think about it. Where do you feel I? Comfortably. Most of us, we feel above. I am here. If you force me to say, I am here. Now draw one more line through the neck, mentally. Horizontal line. Below the neck, above the neck. At this point, some people might say, I feel I am here. But many people, most people would say, it doesn't matter wherever you are, this will work both ways. Most people would say, I am somewhere in this head. And there's a good reason why we say that. One reason is that so many of the senses are located in the head. Skin is very sensitive here. Our eyes are here, nose and tongue and ears, all of these are here. And so our sense of presence is very strong in the head. So it's okay that we feel that we are in the head somewhere. Now he says, let's go further and draw two lines, vertical this time, dividing the head into three parts, like this. Through the head, through the skull, two lines. This part of the head, that part of the head, central part of the head. Where are you? If you are forced, please pick one. Are you here somewhere in the left ear, or are you somewhere in this central portion? Many would say that we are somewhere behind the eyes, somewhere here. We have been taught that we are in the brain, so we all feel that somewhere I must be there somewhere. Again, try to feel it, that, yeah, I feel comfortably, I am here. It feels comfortable, I am here. Now, here is the subtle thing. Center yourself in the presence of the ego. I am here. That is also an experience. I am here is also an experience. To whom? Quick, to whom? Notice, To whom is the ego appearing? To what is the ego appearing here? You can never objectify it. If you could do it, you would go straight back to the witness consciousness. To you, the witness consciousness, the ego. So I am not the ego. To the witness consciousness, ego is an experience here. To what? What is experiencing the ego here? And the question is, then what are you? Are you the ego here or that one which is experiencing the ego here? You see, we will all say, I am the one experiencing the ego. Then you are not the ego. Look at the trick that the ego plays. One thing we know for sure, what am I? I am I. I am I. What else am I? I am the ego. No, you are not. Even the ego is appearing to you. And that to which the ego appears, that's not an object. That is certainly not the ego, that's not an object. And yet it is aware of the ego. It illumines the ego. The ego is like a mirror in which consciousness sees its face. And illumining the ego, it illumines the mind. Ego is a function of the mind. The illumined ego shines on the mind. And the mind illumined illumines the senses. The senses being awakened, it illumines the whole body. Wherever the nervous system spreads in this body, it carries that reflected consciousness. And so we feel, the whole body feels conscious. If sometimes by mischance somebody gets paralyzed and the nervous system is broken down in some part, that part does not feel like you anymore. It's there, but you don't feel it. You don't feel conscious there anymore. So this is the answer to the first question, that why does, if I am awareness and separate from the body-mind, why does the body-mind feel conscious? Why do I feel I am the body-mind? It's because of two things. One is reflected consciousness, other one is ego. Reflected consciousness appears in the ego, illumines the ego like the face appearing in the mirror. And the ego is connected to the mind, and the mind is connected to the senses and the body. The illumined mind illumined by reflected consciousness, illumines the whole body, and I feel, because of the ego, I feel I am this body-mind. The ego is definitely connected to body-mind. And if you take yourself to be the ego, you will become the body-mind. Stay with this. This is the answer to the first question. Why do I feel conscious in this body-mind? Why do I feel I am the body-mind if I am the witness consciousness? Like this. This is the mechanism. See what it says. The reflected consciousness and the ego, they become one. Like the face and the reflected face in the mirror. Reflected face in the mirror and the mirror become one. Because they are one. They are like the red hot iron ball. And because of identification with the ego, the mind and the senses and the body also seem to be conscious. Chetanatam agat. They become lit up by consciousness. And that's what we have here. All of it is a phenomenological explanation of why we are feeling the way we are feeling right now. Then we move on. The next part is very interesting. Let me see. All right. I'll jump ahead a little bit. I'll rearrange the verses a little bit and then come back. Let's jump ahead to verse number 10. We'll do 10 and 11 and 12 and then come back later on. So 10. I'm skipping verses number 8 and 9. I'll come back to it. The very sophisticated concept is there. Number 10. Now we are going to the second question. If you remember what the second question was, what is waking, dreaming, sleeping? Because they seem to be connected to consciousness. How do you explain waking, dreaming, sleeping? Easy. Or as they say, easy peasy. Huh? Next. Number 10. Ahankara laye suptau. Ahankara laye suptau. Bhaved dehopya cetanaha. Bhaved dehopya cetanaha. Ahankara vikasardha. Ahankara vikasardha. Swapnat sarvastu jagaraha. Swapna sarvastu jagaraha. In the state of deep sleep, when the thought of ego disappears, the body also becomes unconscious. The state in which there is a half manifestation of the ego is called the dream state, and the state in which there is a full manifestation of the ego is the state of waking. So he's telling us that waking, dreaming, and sleeping are not really due to pure consciousness or witness consciousness. It's not due to the sakshi. It is due to the mind, and more specifically due to the ego. It is when the ego is active, we feel awake. When the ego switches off, we are in deep sleep. When the ego is semi-active, in some in-between state, we dream. Or you are high on weed, or you are under anesthesia, something like that. So anesthesia would be more like sleep. Ego is switched off. Now look. Ahankara laya, when the ego merges back into the mind and the mind stops in deep sleep, this is called, and the body also becomes unconscious. This is called deep sleep. You are not aware of the body. You cannot use the body as a conscious agent in this world. The body is just lying there. You don't feel you are inhabiting the body. In fact, the body is nowhere in your inner experience. And when the ego is partially active, he'll explain that further, then you are not connected to the body, but you're connected to the mind. The first thing that appears before consciousness is the mind. So the partially active ego, with its reflected consciousness, draws upon the impressions in the mind and creates a world of its own. That's called a dream. That also feels conscious because reflected consciousness is there. And when the ego is fully active, it engages with the mind, rest of the mind, and the senses, and the body, and engages with the external world. This is called waking. Here also reflected consciousness is there. The ego is active with reflected consciousness, that's this. The ego is active with half active with some reflected consciousness, that's dream. The ego is inactive. Body is not felt, mind is not experienced, world is not experienced, deep sleep. There is no reflected consciousness because the ego is not there. It's like the mirror. If you turn it upside down, no reflection will be there. Ego, switch it off, no reflected consciousness. You as the pure consciousness, witness consciousness, you are there. You are the witness of the inactive ego, the deep sleep ego, the ego which has gone to sleep. You as the witness consciousness, you are there when the ego is dreaming. You as the witness consciousness is there right now when the ego is active in the waking state. But you are not the ego. That's the trick to it. Then number 11. Anta karana vrittischa. Anta karana vrittischa. Sorry. Yeah. Anta karana vrittischa. Anta karana vrittischa. Chitichaya ikyatamāgat. Chitichaya aikyamaga. No, what is this? Chitichaya aikyam agata. Oh. Chitichaya aikyamagata. Chitichaya aikyamagata. Vasana kalpayet swapne. Vasana kalpayet swapne. Bodhekshayir vishayan bahihi. Bodhekshayir vishayan bahihi. The inner organ mind, which is itself a modification identifying itself with the reflection of consciousness, imagines various ideas in the dream state, and the same inner organ identifying itself with the body imagines objects external to itself in the waking state with respect to the sense organs. It sounds all awfully complicated. It isn't. It's a simple depiction of what we are experiencing. It's depicting how waking, dreaming, and and sleeping work. So it says, in the mind itself, antakarna vritti, movements of the mind, in association with the reflected consciousness in the ego, draws upon its past experiences and imagines a world that's called dream. And the mind and the ego with the reflected consciousness, they connect with the body and the senses, eyes, ears, nose, skin, touch, and experience the external world. That is called waking. So, clear division of waking, dreaming, deep sleep. You are witness consciousness all the time. In the waking state, the mind is active, the ego is active. And the ego it borrows consciousness from you, the reflected consciousness, illumines the mind, illumines the senses, and experiences an external world. That is the waking state. That characterizes the waking state. That's us right now. And when you fall asleep, or if you daydream, you lose contact with the external world, and you are sleeping, the senses shut down, but the ego is still active, partially, and the mind is there, and the ego draws from the mind, borrowing reflected consciousness, imagines a world of its own, and inhabits it, dream. Then the ego itself goes to sleep, the mind goes to sleep, no borrowed consciousness, no experience of the external world, no imagined world, no borrowed consciousness also. So it seems completely blank. It's like the mirror which has been turned upside down. No reflected face anymore. That's called deep sleep. So waking, dreaming, sleeping, all due to ego, borrowed consciousness, activity of mind and senses, or inactivity of mind and senses. That's it. And all of this, those who have studied Mandukya, you see this is based on the Mandukya Upanishad. Definition of waking, definition of dreaming, and the definition of deep sleep. Notice, you as the witness consciousness is untouched. Just as if I am looking at my face in the mirror is very clear, and I can see my face reflected in the mirror, and many other things reflected in the mirror. That's like the waking state. And if the mirror becomes clouded, foggy, you breathe upon the mirror, it becomes foggy. Then look at your face in the mirror, it seems foggy and vague. And then you turn the mirror upside down. You can't even see your face, and you can't see anything else in the mirror. No reflection at all. That's like deep sleep. Clear mirror, clear face, all reflections, waking state, like that. Foggy mirror, foggy reflection, dream state. Upside down mirror, turned to its back. No reflection at all, no reflected face, deep sleep state. But the interesting thing is, in all three cases, your real face is untouched. Nothing at all happens to your real face. Similarly, you, the pure consciousness, remain untouched, whether it's waking or dreaming or deep sleep. Okay. Then, number 12, and we'll stop and take questions. Number 12. Manoham krityupadanam lingam ekam jadatmakam avasthatrayamanveti jayate mriyate tatha. The subtle body, which is the material cause of the mind and egotism, is one, and of the nature of insentiency. It moves in the three states and is born and it dies. Again, sounds complicated, but simple, and it answers our third question. Third question is, what about birth and death? What about rebirth and many lives? People ask, so this witness consciousness is ever the same. Doesn't matter if the body is alive, dead, whatever. Then what is it that goes to the next life? The physical body doesn't go to the next life, it dies. Pure consciousness remains the pure consciousness, whether it's this life or the next life. Then what happens? What is it that is going from life to birth, birth to death, lifetime after lifetime, the one which is seeking freedom? What's that? And he says that's the mind. That's the subtle body. This is called linga dēya. Another name for it is linga sharira, subtle body. Here it says mind and ego. Remember, we divided the mind into two parts, mind and ego. Mind, the ego and the rest of the mind. The mind and ego, they are all part of what is called the subtle body. And again, remember, always, a fact here and now, no theory, no speculation. When you say physical body, you all know, it's this. When you say subtle body, what's that, some weird old philosophy? No, no, no. Everybody feels the subtle body right now. Our emotions, our thoughts, our ideas, that's the subtle body. Our memories, the prana, the physical forces, the vital forces keeping this body alive, that's the subtle body. At physical death, what happens is the physical body dies due to old age, disease, accidents, or whatever. But the subtle body doesn't die. And certainly the witness consciousness doesn't die. The subtle body leaves the physical body and goes on to other worlds and other lives. You leave the physical body, go on to other worlds and other lives. That's the idea of the subtle body. But the real you, the witness consciousness, neither comes nor goes. You are always there. You're shining upon it. You just watch another movie or another episode in the serial called your life. One episode is this life. Another episode will be another life. But you are the one who's watching is not changing at all. You're the same one. It's the subtle, to answer the question directly, how is life and death, multiple lifetimes possible? Physical bodies die, subtle bodies continue, witness self remains always the same. Neither comes and goes. So it says, avasthatrayam anveti jayate mriyate tatha. This subtle body, it is that which makes possible waking, dreaming, deep sleep by borrowed consciousness. And it is that which makes multiple lifetimes possible. It is carried across lifetimes. It's like your data. If you back it up in the cloud, suppose you lose your device or it's damaged or destroyed, your laptop or your iPad or something. All right, it's gone, but the data is not gone. The moment you get a new device, you can download the data and you can carry on working. Exactly like that. That our data is saved in the cloud, literally in the cloud. When this hardware goes, it will be downloaded into another hardware, a new piece of hardware called a baby. And there you are there again. And then you continue your life there. But you, whether your laptop is working or it's destroyed, when your data is up in the cloud, wherever it is, whatever is going on, you are not affected. You're neither being uploaded or downloaded. Neither are you a new piece of hardware, an old piece of hardware, or damaged or destroyed. All of that, it is something that you are using as instruments. It's not you. It's not me. This body was born, it will age, it will die. Krishna says, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha. For those who are born, certain is death. For those who are dead, certain is birth. You'll get another piece of hardware. And you download your past, all your files, and continue your work, your spiritual progress into that. You are unaffected by it until the point you realize what you truly are and you are set free from all this. So, 3 questions have been answered. Question number 1, why does this body and mind feel consciousness? Why does it feel aware, conscious? Why does it feel like a self? It's because of borrowed consciousness, reflected consciousness. We saw the mechanism, like the red-hot iron ball. What's the equivalent? The ego. Ego is like the red-hot iron ball. Now, second question, waking, dreaming, sleeping. How? How does it work? It's because of the ego with borrowed consciousness. When it's active, engaging with the body and senses, it's waking. When it's partially active, not engaging with the body and senses, but remaining in the mind, imagining, that's dream. When it's inactive, that's deep sleep. Again, you are not affected by any of it. You're the witness of all of that. Third question, birth and rebirth and life and death. How is it possible? What does consciousness have to do with it? It is the ego and the rest of the mind and the rest of the subtle body which survives the death of this physical body and goes on, is downloaded into new physical bodies. And then carries on across lifetime and life. You are engaged in it. How? Through the reflected consciousness. But as pure consciousness witness, you are not at all engaged in it. All right. We'll leave it at that and take a few questions. In the next session, we'll have a meditation session too. We'll have some more teaching, Q&A, and a meditation session. All right. There's a microphone to my left. Those who have questions, please come up here. I know some questions I could not answer yesterday. You can also come up here and ask the questions. Yes.
Pranam Swamiji. I'm Nitya Mukta. My question is regarding your second topic, which is vichar. During meditation, as we are able to appreciate with the witness consciousness, while we are functioning in the world outside. Can you elaborate on that more when you said that use thoughts to distinguish, but from a practical application point of view, like when I'm cooking or when I'm working on an Excel sheet or when I'm interacting with the world outside, how do I remember that I am that witness consciousness? Like, do I stop my interaction and then keep reminding myself? So what are some of the techniques that can be implemented?
Yes. So, first of all, don't be exclusive, that I will do only vichara, I will not meditate. I like this dředśya, vivēka, and I'm only going to do this philosophical investigation, and I'll stop my meditation practices. You are asking for trouble that way. Neither meditation will be possible, nor this dředśya vichara will be possible. Remember, all of this Vedantic techniques, they take for granted that we are doing our spiritual practices sincerely. Then only all of this becomes easier. Otherwise, it won't work. In a restless mind, it won't work. In an impure mind, it won't work. All right. Now, how do I do this? One is, do I keep reminding myself, going back to the fact that I'm the witness consciousness? Whenever, once in a while, do I sit down and meditate? I'm doing my Excel spreadsheet or something, and then sit down and meditate. And then again, do this spreadsheet. Oh, I've forgotten I'm the witness consciousness. Sit and meditate. Shut down. No Excel sheet and no body and no mind and quiet. And yes, I'm the witness of the quiet mind. Then back to. No. You can do some of that. We are told in our monastery and as Vedanta practitioners, remind yourself that, for example, when you're working, you remind yourself you're working for God, as a service of God. Before the work, maybe in between the work sometimes, and at the end of the work, I offer it to the Lord. Yes, some of that is good, that you keep a thread of spiritual practice going through the day. It could be a prayer, it could be a mantra. Full-blown meditation is generally not possible nor recommended in the middle of a busy day. Certainly not while you're driving. Though some have done that. I heard the story of one of our great Swamis, Swami Sarvapriyananda, who established the Vedanta Society of Southern California in Hollywood in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. In his younger days, he would drive. He learned how to drive a car, but he stopped after a terrible accident. Luckily, he was not hurt. What happened was, he lost control of the car, and the car veered off the highway. This was 1950s, I think. And imagine the Swami's surrender to God. The moment this happened, and the car is out of control, he knows he's going to crash. His reaction was, believe it or not, he let go of the wheel, he put up his feet, and surrendered to God. And the car, of course, went and crashed into a tree, but luckily, and the car got totaled, but the Swami was not hurt. God was helping somewhere. Nobody was killed. But of course, after that, he stopped driving. Now, so one can have a thread of spiritual thought in the middle of the busy day, but sometimes to this extent. There is a song, if I'm not wrong, popular in America, Jesus take the wheel. The wheel, Jesus take the wheel. You surrender to God. And that's a very powerful practice, surrender to in bhakti. Now, what you do in Vedanta, however, is different. It's quite different from this. What you do there is, you are Nitya Mukta, that's your name. You're Nitya Mukta? Yes. Now, when I asked you, you are Nitya Mukta, were you thinking, I'm Nitya Mukta, I'm Nitya Mukta, I'm Nitya Mukta? Were you thinking that? No. And yet you are able to answer immediately, I am Nitya Mukta. Why? Because you say, I know I am Nitya Mukta. I don't have to practice it. I don't have to practice it. It's knowledge for me. It's effortless for me. That's what you will say. I don't have to keep remembering it. Do you sit morning and evening, Nitya Mukta practice? I have to repeat the Nitya Mukta mantra in the morning, then in afternoon, then in evening? No. It is so effortless for you. You are so confident in it. And this is just a name which has been given to you. That itself has become effortless for you. Similarly, when we realize what we are, I am the witness consciousness, it becomes so clear and so indubitable, so unmistakable, you don't need to practice it. But we forget in the middle of the world. That's fine, you forget. But it's constantly available to you. You don't really forget. It's always there. Just as the name Nitya Mukta, your identity as Nitya Mukta is always there, in spite of not practicing it. Will you say that when I am not remembering that I am Nitya Mukta, I have forgotten that I am Nitya Mukta? No. You have not forgotten. Certainly not. It is readily and always instantaneously available to you. You didn't even have to think one moment. When we wake up in the morning, sometimes we have to think, where am I? Oh, I'm here in Henley. But what am I or who am I? I am Nitya Mukta. You don't even have to think for one instant. You are that. You never wake up thinking, who am I? No. If you did, you would be great Vedantins. We are quite certain. Similarly, when you realize that I am the witness consciousness, we're quite certain. Look at, we feel we are this body, we are this person. We feel that. Do we practice it? I have to practice, I am the body, this I am this. Do we practice that? Never. It is instinctive for us. It becomes like that. To make it like that, however, there is a period of this inquiry followed by Vedantic meditation, which we will do. We will see later on. So that helps to make it stable. Once it is stable, you don't keep on practicing it. You're not worried about how will I keep on remembering I'm witness consciousness. It's like asking, I'm looking around seeing everything, but once in a while I should also see my eyes just to make sure they're there. We never do that. That's ridiculous. The very fact that I'm able to see is fine. That shows me my eyes are there and they are working fine. In fact, if I'm not able to see, if it gets blurry, then I become aware of the eyes and I start worrying about it. Otherwise, I know the eyes are there. I have no insecurity about it. Similarly, what will happen is, when you are centered in your nature as this witness consciousness, as you go through the activities of the day, your work or whatever is going on in life, everything will point back to you and prove to you you are the witness consciousness. You don't need a separate practice for it. Everything affirms it. Pleasure affirms it. Pain, suffering affirms it. How can you suffer unless you are the witness consciousness? And because you are the witness consciousness, you don't suffer. I don't know if it makes sense. One sadhu put it very beautifully. I'll tell you in Hindi and translate. I was really moved when he put it this way. He said, Advait pratiti ko mitane ke liye nahi hai, Mahatma ji. Advaita is not for wiping out the experience of life. Advaita does not mean switching off the movie. Let the movie play. Let as many movies play as you like. He says in Hindi, Advaita aapko vyavahar mein nirbad banata hai. Advaita makes you fearless, limitless in your transactional life, in your lived life. It does not require you to shut down life. It is because of that Advaita, the non-dual consciousness, that life is possible. Okay. Please come.
Pranam Maharaj. Ami Shongita Chaudhuri. Yesterday, you taught us about the three things: ignorance, mind agitation, and not being interested.
Yes.
I was just reflecting on it after the evening lesson and tying it back to, again, I've heard you about chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Gita, where Duryodhan, Sri Krishna tells Duryodhan that this is not right. And Duryodhan says, I know it's not right what I'm doing. He said, I'm not interested. Can you explain a bit
Yes,
more?
it's not in the
Thank you.
Gita. So it's before the war started.
Before the
Yes, people asked this question: why did Krishna teach Gita to Arjuna? Arjuna was one of the good guys. So if you really wanted to make a difference, you should turn the wicked into good. Go and teach spirituality to the wicked. But here is a great truth: spirituality cannot be taught to the wicked. One must move from immorality to morality, to an ethical life, before one becomes spiritual. The good comes before God. One must try to become a decent person before you move into spiritual life. I mean, by moving into spiritual life, you will be transformed. That's true. Don't make it a sequence. First, let me be Mahatma Gandhi, and then I will be, Krishna, or I will be Vivekananda or something. No. Spirituality and ethics will go together, but ethics is absolutely foundational for spirituality. But wickedness prevents us from being spiritual. And that example is of Duryodhan, who is the crook, who is the villain in the Mahabharata. So Krishna actually tried to teach him. He went to Duryodhana and he said, this is not dharma. This is adharma. This is not righteousness. This is immoral, what you are doing. All the stuff that you are doing is immoral. Stop it. And Duryodhana's answer is very interesting. He didn't say that you are wrong. He didn't argue. He said, you are right. He said, you are right. I know what I am doing is wrong, but I feel like doing it. I can't stop myself from doing it. And I know what is right and what should be done, but I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like it. And he's very honest. This is the human condition. And then he goes on to say that, why am I like this? Well, there's some force within me which is pushing me along this path. I can't help it. Janami dharmam nachame pravritti. I know what is dharma. I don't feel like doing it. It's like every rebellious teenager ever. I know, janami adharmam, nachami nivritti. I know what is adharma, what is immorality, what is evil, but I can't stop myself from doing it. And why am I like this? Kenapi devena hridisthitena yatha niyojito asmi tatha karomi. There's some power within me, some force, evil force maybe, something which is pushing me along this path. As it is pushing me along, I'm helplessly swept away. I can't do anything else. It's very tragic. It's very tragic. You know what's the difference between Duryodhana and Arjuna? Arjuna in the Gita also says exactly the same thing. Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha anichannapi varshneya baladeva niyojita. He says, O Krishna, impelled by what does a man commit sin? Impelled by what does a human being commit sin? Unwillingly. Why do we do wrong things? Why do we say things which we regret later? Why do we think things which we regret later? Thought, word, and deed. Why are we, even when we know what is right, we don't do it? When we know what is wrong, we still do it. Why? What force impels us? And then that's the same question which was asked to Duryodhana. But the difference between Arjuna and Duryodhana, the difference between the villain and the hero, the difference between the non-spiritual person and the spiritual person is this. Between the moral person and the immoral person is this. Arjuna asks, how can I change? Duryodhana denied the possibility of change. Arjuna says, help me, teach me. How can we transform this? How can I will that which is good? How can I will myself to stop that which is wicked? Yeah, so this is the difference. That's at that level, wanting. And wanting comes from purification of the mind. Now you might say, that's no good because I don't have a pure mind. What can I do? Well, what you can do is try to purify the mind. Even if spiritual practice seems mechanical, do it. Even if I have to force myself to be truthful, even if I have to force myself to be non-violent, even if I have to force myself. Somebody said, but that's hypocritical. You feel one thing, but you are doing something else. That's human. If we did whatever we felt like, that would be animalistic. Whole crux of morality, of civilization itself, is that we go against our baser instincts and build something better. And there will come a time, don't worry, when what we feel will also be moral. I want and I feel something and I know it's immoral. I stop myself and force myself to do what is right. Over time, character is a dynamic thing. It gets transformed. Every deed, every word, every thought goes into the mind and changes us ever so little. But over time, there's a Hindi phrase, banat banat banjai. Beautiful, homely Hindi phrase, which means making, it's done. As you keep at it, you feel you're not making progress in spiritual life. But one day you find it's done. It's a huge difference in your life. It's been done. So, thank you. Come. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Hello, Swami. My name is Devi. My question is about reflective consciousness and consciousness. The jump from the I. For me, the I feels self-aware rather than a witness watching the I. Same with you saying that we exist in deep sleep. But where is the we? So my experience of life is only through a reflective consciousness. So the jump from that. So it's like I can't ever see my face without, if there's no mirror, there's no me that feels I'm existing without the mirror of my mind. So how do you differentiate mind from consciousness?
That's actually the question which is being dealt with here. More precise answer you will get in the next session.
Okay.
He will go to that mirror and reflected face and real face example. He'll go there and bring us as precisely close to witness consciousness as possible in a text and teaching. The rest we'll have to do, that jump. One good thing to do is to, as you said, the I shining in reflected consciousness. The ego shining with borrowed consciousness, with the reflection of consciousness. Stay with it. That is available to us. It's a very subtle thing, but it's available to us, all of us, like nose. I, stay with it. And I am sitting, I am thinking, I am meditating. That I. Then notice that it is being noticed. That I also is being noticed. Is it the I thinking of the I, or something illumining the I, noticing the I? And stay with it. And that final turn, that we will practice it in the next session. There's a meditation coming up. You have to keep at it.
So I still feels self-aware. It feels like a self-aware I.
It is.
Rather than something else watching the I.
Yeah, but it feels like a self-aware I because it is borrowing consciousness. So it is shining actually. Notice, iron ball is not a luminous body. It's a heavy, dark ball made of iron. But when it borrows fire, when it borrows heat, it shines red hot and it can actually cast some light. Put it in a dark room, it gives you a red glow in the room because of that iron ball. It has borrowed that luminosity and heat from the fire. Similarly, the I has borrowed consciousness. So it behaves like it is conscious, but it's not conscious at all. Just as the iron ball is not fire. Similarly, the I is not conscious. But because of the proximity to consciousness or appearance before consciousness, it seems to borrow consciousness and seems to shine. Well, stay with that shining I. Stay with it, actually. You will feel, yeah, I am shining. And we'll do an exercise which will use that to point back towards yourself as the witness. See if that helps.
Okay. All right.
At one point, it will help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji, for your teaching. My name is Janet.
You can speak up a little bit.
Maybe, okay. I'm beginning to understand consciousness at the level of the individual.
Yes.
And that there is reflected consciousness through my mind, there is reflected consciousness through your mind that is different. And because we have minds, I can link to what consciousness is. It's a word in English, and I can start to relate to that. But then I start to think of a stone, or the universe empty with a few molecules being consciousness, and that jump from Atma to Brahman is a big jump.
Yeah.
Can you give any advice?
That's an important question. So the question which she's asking is, I sort of understand what is consciousness, and I am aware, or I am consciousness. But then we are different. They're different people. And one question might be, is consciousness different in different people? The second question is a bigger question. Is here we are, little bundles of molecules with some consciousness is shining here. And there is a vast, vast universe out here, where there seems to be no consciousness at all. Consciousness seems to be a very limited phenomenon in one corner of the universe, on this earth, so far as we know. And here on this earth also, in these bodies and minds, in living bodies and minds. Now more or less people are accepting, scientists also, that animals also have consciousness. And generally, common people always knew that your dog is conscious, your cat is conscious. It's the scientists who had a hard time believing it. Now they accept it also. Now, then how is Atman Brahman, is consciousness is the only reality of this universe? Doesn't calculate, doesn't figure. It seems to be a tiny thing compared to the uncaring vastness of this universe. So the jump from Atman, the consciousness, to the all. Atman is Brahman. How is that accomplished? That will be. That's coming up. Maybe not today. Tomorrow we'll become the universe tomorrow. Yeah. Today also it might come up. If we get enough time, we will do that. Remember the 5 knots which I mentioned yesterday to understand the Advaita position of consciousness. Not body. Consciousness is not body, not mind, not many, not object, non-dual, not two, or not non-dual. Each of these is a big jump from consciousness, that consciousness is not body, not brain, not nervous system. This is the huge fight between physicalism and idealism. Right now it's going on. And it has been going on for centuries and millennia. In India, in the West, there have been subjective idealists, there have been materialists. This is the fight. Because the materialist will say consciousness is body. For goodness sake, it is brain and nervous system, and once the body is dead, no consciousness at all. If that's so, we can pack up and go away. There is nothing more to be done. Just wait to die, that's all. Then consciousness is not mind. That's a big one. Right now, modern consciousness studies does not understand the distinction between mind and consciousness. And if you ask, how will you distinguish between mind and consciousness? Very simple, very elegant. This book helps us to do it. If you are aware of it, then you are conscious, that one is not conscious. Are you aware of your mind? Are you aware of your thoughts? Are you aware of emotions, memories? Yes. Then they are objects. You are conscious of them. They are not conscious. Even the mind is not conscious. So consciousness is not mind. But why the mind seems to be conscious? Today, just now, this session, we are discussing it. Reflected consciousness. All right. Third would be that it is not many. That would be one step towards this universality of consciousness. And then the last one would be that not two. There is nothing other than consciousness. We will see all of that. Thank you. That Atman is Brahman. That is the final conclusion. The final teaching where non-duality is established. Right now, non-duality has not been established. We are still very much in the realm of conscious, not conscious. Somehow, What is not conscious has to be then finally seen as consciousness also. We will see that. Thank you. We'll take this question and wrap up here. Please come. And the other questions we'll take in the next session.
Namaste, Swamiji. My given name is Deanne. I am very grateful that it's a new phrase to me that you've defined the witness consciousness, because I find that in a lot of these discussions and my own reflections, English is very limited in words, and consciousness can mean just, I'm unconscious, I've fallen down, knocked my head, and so on. So I would like to ask you a little bit about what I feel from my own experiences, the difference when you said that mind and ego continue in a different form because they're not in the form of the physical body after death. 34 years ago, I had a very profound near-death experience. I was in hospital at the time. I'd just given birth to twin daughters through a cesarean section, and I was in the recovery room. For whatever reason, I would now say that I felt my physical body, my witness consciousness, was leaving that and hovered, if you like, on the classical sort of ceiling. So although my physical senses, as you said, the nose and so on, were not functioning at all the hospital staff were there, and very rude language, I could hear it all very clearly. I could see more clearly than when otherwise I might have needed glasses to see clearly. Everything that was going on there, and I still remember it as clearly as seeing a film, as you've mentioned. So I had mind in a way, and maybe I had ego, but it was very different. I was in a completely, and again, it's very difficult to find the words for it, but in an altered state of this witness consciousness, as you described now. So, and I had some very profound insights from my witness consciousness that were not in physical words like these are, which are always very limiting to explain what we really feel or think and so on. But it was more clear than anything I could put into words. And those aspects of what came to light through my own witness consciousness or connecting to the cosmic universality of consciousness were very profound for me. So would it be helpful if there were a different word, or to add a word to that mind and ego that is there? At the same time, I was definitely told, I had could see my two children, babies that had been born, held by, at the time, my sister and best friend. And I was clearly told, again, in ways that I can only put into words now, these are not your children. So there wasn't an ego in that sense.
All right. This is very, very important. 2 points I'll make here. One, this experience, which I'm glad you shared it with us, but it has been recorded of other people, the NDEs, near-death experiences, of being clearly apart from the body. Sometimes having a perspective like a bird's eye view from the ceiling upon the bed and the body and other people in the room, of having clarity, not foggy, unconscious, dying, not like that. This is precisely what they are talking about, the linga deha, the subtle body leaving the dying physical body and going. This is a subtle body. It's not the witness consciousness. It's a subtle body which left. That it is that one which enables us to think and remember and feel and process information. That one which gives us the sense of self. That one which deploys the organs of the senses. Now, also one more thing. Notice what she said, that it was even more clear, perhaps more clear than when I am in the body and seeing. So this subtle body actually does not even depend upon the physical organs. She had the experience of as if she was seeing from the ceiling perspective into the room without using the organs, physical organs of the incapacitated body down there on the bed. So this is what is a subtle body, sukshma sharira. All of us have it. All of us have it. We all feel it right now, but we feel it integrated with this body. When it's not integrated with this body, when it's sort of detached from this body, and that's when you get that kind of an experience. And that's why you also have, throughout every civilization in the world, from the very beginning of, before modern civilization, from caveman times, you have accounts of ghosts. A ghost is nothing other than us. You and I, we are ghosts. But we are embodied right now in a physical body. When this physical body dies, for a time being, we remain as the subtle body without a physical body. That's what a ghost is. If it somehow, I don't know how, if it does manifest to the living beings, they will be scared. Even if you don't want to say boo to them, they'll be scared because it seems like a disembodied being. But in one sense, we are all disembodied beings. Just now we are in a body, that's all. So that's point number one. That's the subtle body. And it functions quite well without the physical body also, in some ways. But the more important point is, notice the language you used. My witness consciousness. My witness consciousness. Then who is that my? Who's the one who says my witness consciousness? Like I can say my shirt, my hand, my thoughts. If I say my witness consciousness, who is the one saying my witness consciousness? So actually, when you say my witness consciousness, what you meant was my subtle body, and you are the witness consciousness. You are the one which felt sick on the bed. You are the one which felt it was dying. You are the one which felt it was rising into the ceiling and looking down. You are that one. So what is on the bed, what is rising to the ceiling, what is on the bed is the physical body. What is rising to the ceiling is the subtle body, which we just talked about. But you are the witness consciousness, which is illumining the subtle body, and through that experiencing the world. And in fact, it's like a almost literal description, actually lived experience of what's being talked about here. So thank you for that good way of wrapping up this session. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.